Hey guys, it's Matt. This is a video where the comment section is far more important than the opening video. I'm going to propose the topic, try to represent all sides of the topic as fairly and objectively as possible, say just in the first 15 or 20 minutes. I won't be too long-winded. Again, the comment section, far more important, and because of that, I'll ask you to hold back your comments, take a little bit of this in, let me present an alternative viewpoint from a different podium maybe before you write it out. Of course, some people have a certain religious belief. When I ask the question, they'll know exactly how to reply, and no matter what I say, it won't change the reply. So hold back if you can, and then I will also clean up comments the best that I can to keep everything on point. I don't think a bigger question exists anywhere than this. What are the consequences for living life the wrong way, or not taking advantage of what you're here to do, or not using the tools that this reality affords you? What are the consequences? And if you're of a certain mindset, of a certain religious belief, you're going, there's nothing to discuss here, Matt. But there is a lot to discuss. So there's a lot of views on this. And it is the range of the sliding scale here. What are the consequences for not using this life as it should be used? The sliding scale here is very large. All right. So let's just get into the sliding scale. And again, just hold back 5 or 10 minutes if you can, because there might be a few things here that you might not have considered. Now, on the sliding scale, at one side, at the highest consequence for not using life the way you need to use life or should use life is the evangelical Christian position, general the Christian position, but even way down the sliding scale, even there is the evangelical Christian position, where if you don't live your life a certain way, and even going further than that, don't accept Jesus Christ into your heart, etc., you will burn in hell forever. That's a heck of a consequence. Okay, burn in hell forever. There's no that's pinned on one side of the sliding scale here in terms of consequence. But as you move up, you get into different religions. Um, Buddhism, you go a lower realm, reincarnation into a higher realm or a lower realm, or other religions here. And then you go up as you move up the sliding scale in terms of what are the consequences for not living life appropriately. If I'm not putting that very well, but you know what I mean. There is no bigger question than this, and determining exactly what this question means for yourself. So you slide up the scale. Let's go all the way up, so you'll know where I'm going. I'll call it the Alan Watts theory, but it's also in line with somebody that provides me a lot of very good information, Tony, others, where they would come if they had a podium here and they could make a presentation, if they could allow me to put words into their mouth and try to interpret their position the best that I can. They would say, look, um, if you slough off here in this life, if you slack off, if you don't learn anything, you just become addicted to drugs or just chase West Hollywood parties, and you're not benefiting your higher self. You're not benefiting the divine aspect of you that's not here. You're just one aspect of that. But there's no consequence in that you can't lose your soul. This is what I'm making the presentation for them now. They would say you can't lose. Now, again, I'm not an expert. I might get a few things wrong. This is generally what they would say. And if anybody, if like Tony, for example, if I'm not in this case, I'm not exactly mimicking maybe what you would say. I've heard a lot of different people over many, many years that have a similar philosophy of you. I'm just trying to make a presentation, an amalgamation of what that philosophy is. That you can't doom your soul or spirit here, or Horcrux your soul off like they presented in the last three Harry Potter movies. That's what these people would say. Your higher self or your divine nature would never let that happen. But your higher self is still stuck in this game. It still has to put incarnations here. You haven't learned anything. You haven't learned how to step out of this game or this material world. But you can't truly doom your soul or spirit. I'll call this the Alan Watts perspective. He had a little bit different take in some lectures. He'd say you are divinity itself, you are creation itself, is what Alan Watts would say. Sometimes in some of his lectures, he makes it seem like we just got bored and you created this realm and you actually were had a hand in creating it and you went in for an experience because you were bored, a learning experience. But and Alan Watts would say you can't give yourself away here with soul tokens, and that's all the way down the other the other end of the sliding scale. And along the sliding scale, you have this thing that floats below is called karma. And of course, somebody who's up on the Alan Watts side of the sliding scale, that you're just an aspect of higher self or of source or of the divine, would never let these creeps um, doom your soul in all the tricks that they run around in terms of how they play the reality trick. And there's no karma at all for the most part for this group. In fact, they would say that karma, one of your main jobs here is to work with your higher self to understand that it doesn't need to do this anymore. It doesn't need to incarnate in a 3D material plane anymore. It can move on. It has leveled up. It has graduated, for example. And these people would say the karma aspect and the introduction of the whole idea of karma is what will keep you here. Is, oh, I didn't, oh, I feel bad about this, or I didn't treat my father right, or, oh, well, a life review, and, get an aspect of you or an aspect of higher self back into a body or reincarnation. Karma is like the Jacob Marley chains to this group. And they would say, or many would say, this is completely false. I mean, there is no karma. The reality itself wants you to believe there's this karma you have to shed. And nobody's going to go into the day of their death. Well, not nobody, so I don't want to put that out there, and that's not correct. But it's very difficult on the day of your death to say, I've addressed every single karma issue in my life. Every time I treated my mother poorly or called a name to a family member, I've addressed that. And I know, see, we're never going to be that perfect. I don't think we have to be that perfect. I don't think we have to be that perfect. But this thing about the main questions here on the sliding scale in terms of what you believe, karma is a big issue. Again, if you go down the scale, um, they would say, well, this is real, and if you do have to overcome it, and it's real, it's a real weight, but you can overcome it. That's why this reality gives you so many tools and ways to do it if you wake up to what's important. And then you can better yourself or incarnate to a higher position or get out of here. But in terms of understanding, if you want to come to a personal realization as to what are the consequences of this place, the idea of your personal idea of karma is a huge aspect of how you'll deal with this. Now, if you just provide me one more section here before you comment, and I would ask you to why not hold back as long as you can. Um, but this is the main question, and this is my biggest issue in where do I fall along. And I'm not going to, for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to tell you where I am along the sliding scale. Many of you have an idea because you've been here so long. But this is the key question as far as I'm concerned in addressing this issue of consequence and where you fall along the sliding scale. Okay, why does it, I wrote down here, why does it work so hard through its minions? So this is what I would always go back to Tony and others that are all along at the opposite end of the sliding scale, that this reality can't doom your soul or spirit or horcrux you off. My biggest question to them, and it's still my biggest question I need to answer for myself, is, all right, see, it doesn't, I have to give you a little bit of my viewpoints here, but please don't be, obviously you're going to put what you believe. See, why does it work so hard if there are no consequences? Does anything that we understand even in life, in existence, if it is, does something work so hard for nothing? So there are a couple ways to take that with the consequences may not be the Pope's, bad souls. Pope Francis saying bad souls don't go. Haven't said this in a while, right? Pope Francis coming out and he slipped and somebody wrote it down and his friend published it and obviously it's a leak on purpose, but it could be of course a leak to deceive as well. where he's quoted as saying, "Souls, bad souls don't go to hell." Pope Francis. Not that I take my lead from Pope Francis. Just get to it. Okay. Um, Bad souls don't go to hell. Bad souls just go to the abyss. They just go to nothing. So maybe if we have time, we'll try to determine why that was purposely a mistake on purpose leaked out of the Vatican. But the key question for me is, well, why does it work so hard? The entire reality is a trick. And obviously, this is what the last 10 years of making videos have been about, and don't need to discuss it. But if anybody's new, the entire reality that's crafted, that's presented to you in any form that comes through culture, society, government, entertainment, whatever, this whole screen of reality that surrounds you, that's nothing to do with the real screen, is to get you to live a way that's not the natural path for a human being, to get you to believe in something that you normally or instinctively probably shouldn't believe in, or to covet things you shouldn't covet, or to not walk the path of a real human being. The whole reality is a trick. Okay, we don't need to discuss this. This is what every YouTube video has been about for the last 10 years. So, it gets into things like it works. It doesn't just work hard. That's not the right word. I mean, I should have looked up synonyms for work hard. I mean, it's work hard times a trillion. What's it doing all of this for? There's no consequences. If you're an Alan Watts, kumbaya, oh no, we're just here having experience. And Matt, your bias is coming out, and I have certain issues, but I'm all over the place on this. And my belief set is actually in many different aspects of this sliding scale. I haven't reconciled it myself yet. But, you know, what is it working so hard for? And if somebody's saying, well, that's a good point. If there's no consequence, why is it running around and getting in my business all the time to get me to do something that I shouldn't be doing, or to distract me with endless truth or breadcrumbs, or if you're not in the truth community, with other breadcrumbs to keep you from understanding yourself? The whole reality is structured so human beings don't understand themselves. Well, there's no consequence. Well, what's it working so hard for? Now, the only way I can see to address that, if somebody, presenting the other side of the podium, somebody step up the other side of the podium and say, Matt, you know, this minion class here, these creeps were put here and they need to feed. I mean, they harness energy. They harness frequency, loosh. They need everybody at a certain part of the radio dial coveting this and giving their energy and attention to this so they can benefit themselves. They can quantumly and metaphysically create the reality that they want that benefits themselves. They feed from it. You're the if there are different types of people, here, the generators, the reflectors, whatever. If you're a generator, they need you. The reality itself would probably metaphysically collapse if it wasn't for you. And at least they're going to get you. They can't put their hands on the clay wheel, that thing spinning around. You're trying to shape it into something. They can't. They need to put tell you how to you put your hands on the wheel and shape it. And they'll try to they'll influence you so you make the little demonic head that they want you to make. I don't think they can put their hands directly on the clay wheel, so to speak. But you know what I mean by that. So in terms of somebody arguing that you can't doom your soul or spirit here in terms of the harshest of consequences, or horcrux a piece of yourself off, or your soul goes to the abyss, or even a hell type situation. Somebody could still argue, well, um, they still are need to feed, and they would want, they're creeps. They're going to want, if you're the only ones that can put your hands on the clay wheel, the watery clay, and shape it the way they want, then they're going to have to present a trick to get you to make the little demon head on the clay, because normally you'd want to make a pretty butterfly or something, so they have to present a trick. That's the most benign, I think, explanation for. Obviously, nobody here is going to argue that they're not constantly getting in our business, presenting a trick, getting us to walk down the wrong path. That's what the whole reality is structured to do that to us. Every single minion in every single class. So I struggle with this. Like, what is it working so hard for if there are no consequences? And I don't know if I've ever gotten a good answer from on that from the Alan Watts camp. What's it doing all of this for? It's not just doing a little bit. It works overtime. The entire reality itself, the minions on behalf of the reality itself. So, okay, that's I've been beating a dead horse if I go any further. That is my main question. And because that question has not been adequately answered back to me by anybody that's in this camp, I will still keep on the table. There's consequence. I'm a consequence person here. I know I'm not just talking about Tony. There's a lot of people that have emailed me from the Alan Watts camp. I mean, there's a lot of people in this camp. Matt, you are of source. You're of the divine. Nobody tricked you to come in here and hijacked reality. They would say, come on. You were part of all that ever was, all that ever will be. But yeah, you found yourself hearing like, oh, I fell for it. Now I'm stuck here. I'm stuck here from lifetimes and Saturn Moon Matrix. And they're like, come on. If you were this part of your divine aspect of yourself, you think it could be some stupid ass thing that's just going to fall for a trick? They would say, "Oh my gosh, and I didn't. They nobody told me George Bush would be here, and there's a Saturn and a moon. I'm stuck." You know, no, you're not gonna like. They would say, if the stakes were so high, you wouldn't have gone down here in the first place, like the Alan Watts camp, which makes a lot of sense. You're not going to be fooled like some charlatan, some bait and switch salesman presenting a bunch of fine print to a little old lady to get her to sign something away, and you would have you it does make sense that the divine aspect of you would not have fallen for some bogus bullshit trick that these that some coordinated in some way by whatever is represented here by the big fish in the small pond. This power structure here is a big fish in a Home Depot bucket. It's a joke. If you back up far enough, here, as if here, oh, the masters of this world, they seem so powerful. But what is this world? If you back up far enough, it's nothing. So, but these people, the big, gigantic, stinking cod in the Home Depot bucket that thinks it's ruling over a lake or something, that got you, a divine aspect of you, to come in here, and it tricked you. It's now you're screwed. I don't. You understand where I'm going with this? The other, I put something out in the book, and I think it was the section. Let me just put out some theories. I might. I'm not putting all my chips on any of these theories in the books. In the book, I talked about a lot of different theories, and one theory is the filter theory, also called I call it the Roach Motel theory, and it is a theory. Most of my theories, again, you can't point to any religion or anything like that. They're very religion neutral. That God, source, the source of all creation, God, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. I'm discussing my filter roach motel theory now. Excuse me. I don't know how this happens. You talk for like 15 minutes, but then you'll find like a big piece of cat hair in your mouth. Like maybe it just floated in. There's probably like a bunch of cat hair floating around. I can't even see because of these long hairs. But God, source, creation, whatever. People, let me talk about this theory for a few minutes because it's still on my table. Absolutely. This still resonates big time with me. People talk about God as it must be perfect. First of all, if anybody's taking exception, is it? You think God, this was in my book, you think God wants to be called a he or she? There's probably there's no lower there's no lower description. If you're here, a he or she must exist on it would much rather be called it, of course, he or she. It that's not derogatory. It sounds derogatory, but it's just the opposite. We always assume it's perfect. That's an arrogant assumption. How do we know? How do we know it's perfect? I'm talking about God's source. I'm not talking about Christian God, the God of the Old Testament. Just be general with me here, vague. Why do we assume it's perfect? Where'd we get that? Because somebody told you? Maybe it's not perfect, and it put trillions of aspects of itself into different realities. Okay, guys, the filter theory. Everybody assumes if you say the word God, it must be perfect. Again, why? How would anybody know? Why would that even be assumed? I mean, If you just look out your window, you can make a case that it is not derogatory. It might not be perfect. Look out your window. Matt, there's a grand plan. Whatever. Okay, okay. But you can't just assume it's perfect because why? We have no evidence that it's perfect just because somebody told you. Okay. Now, assuming there's any chance God source, divine, whatever, things we don't understand. If there's any chance it's not perfect, and of course, any reasonable person would say there's a chance it's not perfect. So if there's just even one aspect of itself that's not perfect, does it make sense that it would want to try to perfect itself? That makes sense. Even we dumbass, many dumbass humans try to perfect ourselves, and look how low we are compared to something that understands all of creation, etc. We try and our dumbasses trying to perfect ourselves. So yeah, it would make sense, right, that God, source, divinity, whatever, would want to perfect itself. So it puts trillions of aspects of itself into different realities. This being one, I don't know, different. I don't know. I'm just making this up. It's just telling a story. Of course, I don't know. Maybe this is the only place where it puts aspect of itself. I don't know. Um, but then it there's a filter. The real stinky parts of itself, the assholes and the governors and the politicians and people that run gangs in South Central LA that have like body counts and running drugs and rape and murder. And you would think that, well, why would it want those aspects back to itself? Happy Gilmore, it wants the good aspects maybe to go to its home. Happy Gilmore yelling at the ball, it won't quite go in. Maybe it's a truth drive. Go to your home. Don't you want to go home? You know, go to your home. Don't you want to go home? Um, it would make sense. There could be a filter. The good aspects get to go back and bring their lessons and join back with God or the divine. But why is it given why would we all eventually have to have equal standing here, like potentially many in the Alan Watts camp would say? Why? So even depending on your religion, no, Matt, the gangster would have to, would repeat the life, but it would be a lower Buddhist incarnation. And why not just flush that? Why not just flush that part of the divine or of God, or it doesn't make it out through the filter? It's like a roach motel. Go into that reality, go into Earth, and souls go in, roaches go in, but they don't come out. Look at probably a truth drop, probably the biggest metaphysical truth drop of all time is a roach motel. Anybody ever used one? Let's not go in there, but souls go in, like Soul 22 from the movie. Souls go into that reality Earth, but they don't go out. Or that would be if it was a complete roach motel where there's no way out for anybody, and I don't believe that, of course. So it's a hybrid roach motel for souls. Souls go in, shit gets flushed. Maybe that's what the great flood is, the cataclysms. Well, the Bible itself will talk about there's a lot of crappy things on earth. Didn't God want to flush those things? Save a certain aspect with Noah, no matter whether you want to take that literally or not. It is the Bible supports that, if you want to use that as support, that it was just these people were just filth and just flush it, roach motel it. That's what happened with the Great Flood, or if you take it literally, he roach moteled it. Now I'm being disrespectful. It roach moteled it. So um, this is still a chip that I keep right up on the table. And if you wanted to, um, it also, by the way, guys, backing up, it also, when I tried to break down or look at what the 6-minute animation video that comes with the Tool CD, Fear Inoculum, Fear Inoculum, where you fold the Tool logo over and it creates a syringe. The first, you open the DVD box, or the CD box, just the music CD, and there's a screen. There's a video player in the cardboard box that plays the 6-minute video, and and in breaking it down, I mean, it did look like at least we know, there's creepy truth drops, and whether it be something like this or the even going back through Led Zeppelin, and we know that the art does carry these types of messages. Doesn't mean that Tool got it right or Tool knows everything or my interpretation of Tool's right, but it did seem like it looked like whatever that was being presented was sending an aspect of itself into an environment, which, as I was looking at the Tool animation, it did seem to line up with the what I call my filter theory. I'm sure I'm not the first one to say something like this, but I presented it in the book. I didn't read it. I kind of just wrote it out in the book, saying first off, why do we think God is perfect? Why? I mean, and if there's even one tiny aspect that's not, it would still probably want to perfect itself, put aspects of itself into the realities, multiple realities or Earth, and only allow certain aspects to get back out. Makes perfect sense to me. I don't know why the real assholes here, the Idi Amins and the the Robert Mugabe's and the however you believe Adolf Hitler to be. Of course, he was a total asshole either way. Of course, a puppet of the general system to do its bidding, but either way, of course, an asshole. Mussolini, of course, is just an asshole that just loved death. So why would God or the divine want to bring that aspect of itself back? Well, makes sense to me, but um, so that's that theory. In terms of the key questions, the key question is why does it work so hard? And the other key question I wrote down here was um, is it a role player? The creepy aspect here, the minions, the George Bush creatures. I haven't used that for a while. Um, the asshole controlling structure, those that nominate people to be on the World Economic Forum, things like that. The Melvin P, the Melvin and the Melvin P and Belinda, the Belinda and Melvin P Gates Foundation. Is it? I don't even use the word Gates. The Belinda and Melvin P Foundation, things like that. Are they role players or are they hijackers? All right, I wrote this down as a key question, but it's not a key question at all. I wrote it down as if it might be a key question. I need to write this minion class here. These jerks, are they role players or are they hijackers? And then very quickly I went, in terms of what we're trying to discuss now, it doesn't matter. What they do is what they do. They're what they will do to you is the same. Why do I have to understand their motivations? It wants me to spend my entire life understanding their motivations, and not to stray, but just for anybody struggling where I'm going here. Excuse me. Let me just do 2 minutes. Um, hijack initially. Initially we thought hijacked reality. I mean, this is, but I've evolved past this, and then ultimately I've evolved so far past it where it doesn't matter anymore. But again, just 2 quick minutes. Where what was this world was supposed to be was something different, like a golden age, just lying around naked under fruit trees or something. Which who learns anything with that? I'm not going to give you the same old example that I'd like to give involving the lube, but I guess I just did. But it was hijacked, and they're just they these this power group, and they took humans off their path, and they got in somehow and hijacked it. And oh yeah, I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to me. Under the watchful eye of God or the divine itself, or aspects of you that aren't here, or higher self, this little group of creeps, the big stinky cod in the Home Depot bucket, got in here and hijacked everything. It's obviously much more likely that they're playing the role that they were designed to play. I don't want to give they're not doing it to help. They're put like the example where you go to a salon, nails, a mani, pedi, all this stuff, and you put your feet in the water, and the little fish come up and eat your calluses off or whatever. I've never done it, but you know what I mean. That exists. The little fish are helping you, right? They're helping you get your feet nice and soft. The little fish have no idea what they're doing. They're not like, oh, we can't wait to, oh, well, we can't wait for this big foot to come in so I can help. The fish have no clue. These minions are the same way. They don't. They're ultimately we've woken up by seeing their actions. They're role players here, but I don't think they're not trying to help. Hillary Clinton doesn't pull the comforter up at night going, "It was for their own good, but we had to do it. I feel so bad about it, Bill. Hold me." And he was like, "I haven't held you in years." You know, they don't do it for us, but they were put in here for us. But this gets back to something I wrote down here where I'm starting to think that this group is the most fooled. The most fooled. So I don't want to stray into another video topic, guys, and I said I'd be brief. Oh yeah, that happens, right? This is about the comments about what are the consequences for life, but I'm starting to think they're the most fooled, even more than we're starting to get a clue as to how the whole reality is structured. And the first grade response from the truth community is, and we all went through it, is the Dick Cheneys and the George Bushes and the secret societies and this bad guy and the police. Bring the police line up. They know everything, and they have every technology, and they have all the scrolls from the Library of Alexandria and what's in the Vatican Library, and they know everything, and they bring all this knowledge from other incarnations, and they just all powerful. We here, it's obviously, they're big fish in a big fish in a small bucket pond. But I'm starting to think that that's like a first grade knee-jerk truther reaction. They probably want you to think that, so you breathe more power and life into their status in that regard. But they might be the most fooled. Okay, I just get the sense. I don't want to get into any specifics here. Um, I don't want to get into any specifics as to why I think this, and we'll need to. Let me move on because this is not the purpose of this video. So the key question that I struggle with, and I'll close this out, is why does the reality trick work so hard? It works so hard that we've looked at so many examples over so many years that it is beyond the capabilities of what real people can pull off. Nobody could pull all this off. A trick behind every door. This is why I talk about the reality itself. And the minion class, the buck doesn't stop there. They're serving, knowingly or unknowingly, serving something else or a greater role as to which the whole reality is designed. If the whole reality, there, see, this is where I struggle with, consequence. Why I'm a consequence person. And since there's no downside to that, if I live my life, I'm not living my life a certain way in fear of consequences. I will live my life a certain way because that is the natural path, the way I want to live my life, but I'm still a consequences person. If I'm wrong and there's no consequences, meaning I can't give a piece of my soul or spirit away or Horcrux myself off or give away too many soul tokens where I just go down to the abyss and Pope watches me go down the spiral like tidy ball. Bye! You go down. You gave too much of yourself away, asshole. Pope watched me go down the land of the lost, the land of the lost. Get sucked down to Chaka, whatever. Maybe that's a truth drop. The land of the lost. They give themselves to what's his name? Will was one and Holly was another. I forget the name of the older guy, but it doesn't matter. They get sucked down, right? Into the land of the lost. That's where is that that's a I guess a troop drop. That's us now. Got sucked into the land of the lost. Got to use the tools here to get back, to go to your home. Um, Marcia, Will, and Holly were on an exhibition. It's obviously not Marcia, but it's something like that. Marshall. His name was Marshall, I think. Marshall, Will, and Holly on a perverted exhibition. Get sucked down to the slee stacks. Um, so guys, why does it work so hard? And this is my big thing. Why where I am? It works. It's working so hard. It works a billion times harder than anybody could fathom because the whole reality is a trick. And why would it do that if there's no consequence? So I didn't finish my thought. If I live my life as if there's consequence and I'm wrong, and the day of my death or the day of my life, I wake up and or whatever, go into a different phase of existence and like, oh, you couldn't give yourself away there. Just okay, well, cool, whatever. So whatever. I'm not living my life a certain way because of a fear of consequence. There's a total difference. But it's like what Bill Murray, Carl has going for him in Caddyshack. If there is consequence, and I've lived my life in a way that would combat any sort of consequence that I could come up with, then I got that going for me, don't I? I got that going for me. But I'm not going to do it because of a fear of there was a something that just popped into my head. There was oh gosh, in the early 2000s, I was reading a Money magazine and Fortune and Forbes, and oh, this is a new mutual fund that I might want to put my 401k in, or what, all that stupid stuff. You know, in the cubicle, working in the cubicle in the 90s and early 2000s. For the big insurance company and following all that stuff. And I remember reading an article. They interview these money managers, like these geniuses. They know how, they're good at following blips around computer screens and just jumping in and out, following whales in and out of certain stocks, and that's a genius pursuit. So, but because they make a lot of money, of course, they're everybody bows down to them. They must be smarter than we are. So, but he wrote the person in the interview. They asked something about religion to start the interview, and the person's like, "Yeah, I believe in God." But it was like a very calculated, rational way to believe. He was like, because the consequence of believing in God or whatever is I have that going for me. It's on my side. Where the consequence of getting it wrong is really severe. So of course I mean, it was like even at the time I knew nothing about nothing, but I was reading it like it's just that's your rationale for making religious decisions because just because like a rational decision on whether you to buy a stock or not, it's like, well, this side, my risk reward is greater here, so I believe this. What? That don't work. That don't work when you step up to your scale and there's a feather on the one side and a turd on the other. That don't work. Which I don't buy any of that stuff either. So why did I talk about that? So I guess because I'm saying I'm not going to live my life a certain way because of a fear of consequence. Absolutely not. But I'm happy that it lines up. If there is consequence, then I still would. What would you have done differently? Nothing, nothing. I think that's the beauty of when we we all people in this community kind of the ones that aren't stuck watching the bit shoot all day and getting fooled and this and that. And once you start to really understand yourself and understand the nature of this trick and start to move past it, we're kind of living similarly. Um, so ultimately, it doesn't matter. This is a big theme that repeats over and over when I make these presentations. It doesn't matter if there's consequence or not, really, because you're going to live your life the same way either way. Um, a lot of this stuff, as we examine it, like the elements, the who, what, when, where, why of the trick, other than the why and what that tells you about yourself, the other elements, who, what, when, where, how, all the elements of how the minions are pulling this off or doing this or how they submitted the 7-Eleven job application. All those elements and the pursuit of all those elements are complete reality distraction that wants to keep you from yourself. So it kind of the what's the point of even bothering with this? That theme just gets bigger and bigger because we get to the point where many of us in this community are all living our lives in a similar way. It's like, well, consequence or not, I'm living my life in a way that benefits me if there is consequence. And the divine wants to rejoin with the best aspects of itself. I'm not going to do anything different. So, um, there is there's one again there's an aspect of the Alan Watts group that if you make certain contracts with it or you get into bed with it or you just believe you're your straw man, again they'll say you can't doom your soul, but then what are the bad what's the bad parts then of joining with the system and following around Hillary Clinton and doing whatever it says? And well, you can harm your body. You can if you rent the movie action Jacksonation. If you rent that movie, then you have all sorts of problems and you're harming your body. But I don't know. It's just like what when in doubt, I can put whatever on paper here, but the on paper that doesn't ever. This is when you put stuff on paper, you're making a decision. Ultimately, using that to make a decision with the logical mind. I'm trying to ignore the logical mind, trying to say what does your heart tell you? What does your inner knowing or inner tuning fork or frequency tell you in terms of renting the movie, the action movie Jacksonation, and uh, the reason for not getting involved with that is nothing to do with the body. From it's just it's a spiritual reason. It's the ultimate. It seems like it's the ultimate way the reality wants you to make contract with it. It's like the straw man. It's asking you to assume you're the straw man times a million or a billion. I don't care ultimately over time what it would do to my body. I mean, again, once you get to be 50 some, 60 some years old, I mean, Gouda the cat, Pam's cat, has been out there in that room. I mean, Pam dropped that cat off 2 weeks ago. It seems like this morning. Time, it's unnatural what time's doing. It's not just, Matt, you're just getting old. Looking back over as you get older, it speeds up. I'm aware of that. It's beyond that. There's something else weird going on. Like that cat seems like it's been there 10 minutes. It's 2 weeks, meaning we'll be dead in a blink. Who cares about that? So people make I don't understand that. All these decisions and things in their life I'm not saying, I was going to say to be healthy. You should be healthy. How you feel, mind and body and soul all together. Yeah, it all relates, of course. But all the people bend over backwards doing all these things seemingly to, I don't know, extend their life a few years or like who cares? I'm not going to go throw grandpa's war medals off the bridge and then jump behind the war medals. I don't, but I don't understand. Like we're all dead in a blink of an eye anyway. Like who cares? If you're 25 or 35, you have things left to do. It's a different situation. I don't feel like an old man. You got sides with that old man. I don't feel like an old man, but I see how time goes, and I'm just like, in a blink of an eye, I'll be 60. In a blink, oh boy, did he use an eye reference? Yeah, I can read into that. Like that's not something that's been conditioned for me to say since birth in the blink of an eye. I've never heard that before until I just pushed it on the channel. Well, then I'll be 70 and whatever. I mean, it just will go like that. So, what's the point of me even presenting that? I don't know. I don't know, guys. Key aspects. What's the consequence? Let me 1 minute summary. What's the consequence of doing the right thing or trying to do the right thing? And even if you believe there are none, aren't you going to live your life the same way either way? So even that might not matter. If there's certain path or we all kind of start living our lives a certain way based on learning lessons here, then it doesn't really matter if there's consequences or not because um, well, with a few exceptions, as if there is an element of the no consequence people that when I read into their emails, it's almost like it's almost like an excuse to, they want to go back into a stadium, so they're going to rent the movie, and if it's almost like a way to feel better, saying, well, I'm a believer. There's no spiritual consequences here. There's an aspect of higher self that will always protect me. I can't be flushed like the Pope says. That's an obvious deception. And there's an element inside the Alan Watts group that will say, well, I'm going to go rent the movie. I'd like to go to a NFL event, and there's no, it might harm the body, but spiritually, these people aren't concerned about that. Where I'm absolutely would be spiritually concerned. That's my own personal belief. Whenever it's getting in my business and it wants me to make contract with it, then there's a reason for that, I would think. What's it doing all that for? The best way, as over the many years, I observed how it's always trying to get in my business and wanting me to give it attention or to make contract with it or live through my straw man. And as it's all, why does anybody present a trick, even at the very basic level? Why does anybody at the very basic definition present a trick? To get the person tricked to do what they normally wouldn't do, of course. So the whole reality is a trick. It wants me to get me to do something I wouldn't naturally say or normally or naturally do. Well, that's the whole reason I was talking about soul token concepts. I'm just floating this. I don't know exactly where this is going to come out for me. But it's not like it's the crazy theory. If you can back up, there's thousands of these tricksters, charlatans, presentation of the screen, presentation of through commercials, drug side effects, presentation of politics, getting me to merge with my straw man by renewing my driver's license. So it's just millions and millions of tricks. The definition of a trick, it wants me to do something that would normally do. Well, why? And that's why they came up with the original concept of soul tokens. It wants me to give a piece of myself to it. How could there be no consequence if there's a million tricksters asking, basically metaphysically asking me to give pieces of myself to it? And somebody may be screaming at me saying, well, Matt, that you decide. That's the purpose. That's the ultimate purpose, is to get you to take a belief set into death. All right? If it gets you to believe that you can, but even then, it's like, well, why does it want to do that? If it can get you to believe that you've given too many pieces of yourself away, then you take that belief set into death, and you will manifest, whatever upon yourself. That relates to the Harrison Ford. Your tauntaun will die before the first marker. I'll see you in hell. I just saw another movie the other day, or another TV show. The person's like, I'll see you in hell. It's thrown out too much. It's unnaturally carried through time, like Humpty Dumpty. There's a reason for that. Maybe these people would say, yeah, it wants you to believe that, that you're going to go to hell, and then you actually manifest that in the astral on yourself. So, all right, I'm getting a little all over the place. What are the consequences? Remember the sliding scale. Evangelical Christian, don't accept Jesus Christ, don't live life the right way, it's hell forever. I don't think there's anything more hardcore than that. That's all the way down one side, and then you have the Alan Watts, all at the other side of the sliding scale. Hey, you're part of all that ever was, all that ever will be, divine. You got bored, need to learn a few things. This, if you didn't have a mind wipe, you went into the Sims game. You need to believe it's real, and then you'll wake up from it someday or upon your death and go, wow, that was a heck of an experience. And you'll see there was no consequence. You couldn't get yourself flushed. It was all part of the game. Pope coming out making statements that soul can be lost to the abyss. That was all part of the game, so you'd fear it. So now you have a different understanding of who you are as part of the divine. The Alan Watts, hey, it was just a game. It was fun, and wow, it was, it's like the game in what's the movie, the game with gosh, Michael Douglas, I guess it is. If they would say in that movie, it's like if you didn't think it was real, it wouldn't be. We had to scare the crap out of you, or think you were going to die and this and that, and throw you off the building. And well, you had to believe it was real, or it wouldn't be. It wouldn't. That's the Alan Watts would say that. That's why you come in with a mind wipe and all that. So, you know, then. But my biggest thing is why does it work so hard? It doesn't matter at this point whether the Minion class and the Uma Abedins and the Hillary Clintons and the John Bon Jovis and the what a creep he is. It doesn't matter if they're role players or hijackers. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because if they're the only way to really get trapped here, in my opinion, is to if you believe Saturn Moon Matrix and all this nasty stuff, is to do it to yourself. This big fish in a small, the stinking cod in the Home Depot bucket, they don't have the power to trap your ass here. Come on. You got to do everything yourself. You got to doom yourself here. Nothing else is believed. They don't have the power to, if you believe their nonsense and watch their endless videos about how you're dooming and Matt, you're responsible for that. You're talking about giving yourself away and soul tokens and giving too much of yourself away. Okay, yeah, I float that. Of course I float that. But I've never said we're all doomed. I'm like, we have the opportunity, if that's real, to not give away soul tokens. It doesn't, no matter what the answer is, what I'm going to do is no different. So that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of the whole truth pursued is like it doesn't matter because what I'm going to do is no different. It was a really kind of a great revelation for me when I was thinking about the police lineup. And about 4 years ago, I was still like, bring the police lineup out. Who's the bad guy? And then it kind of hit me or dawned on me that what we need to do for ourselves is the same. It's not like I need to switch up what I need to do for myself, whether the Rothschilds are really in control or not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you're gonna do the same thing either way. Um, See these highly detailed truth presentations on this really hardcore esoteric stuff, occult esoteric stuff, understand hidden meaning, hidden symbolism. It's very high level. We've all been across it. Um, been high level videos on the ultimate goal of of a certain religion. I don't want to go there. I don't want this video banned if this isn't the point, but very, certain interpretations of the Old Testament or the Torah or the Talmud, and and every time I see one of these, I don't understand what's being said, and it's too complicated. But ultimately, and it's not a cop out. It's not like Matt, you're just copping out because you'll never understand it. You're not smart enough to understand it. It's not a cop out. I could understand it if I applied myself to it. But it's like, what's the point if I spend 5 years understanding all of this? I'm still going to be sitting here. The choices I can make for myself are still the same. What does it matter? I'm not going to need to recite a password at the moment of my death. Just you got the password, Tom Cruise in the Eyes Wide Shut party. I guess there was no password. That's the point. But you're not going to have to say, oh, here I'm standing here I'm about to go across with, is it Karen? It's Karen or Sharon, the boatman. Karen, I guess it is. And standing here with Anubis, and it's like, what's the password? Yeah, Shallow Hal wants a gal. Oh yeah, you can go across. Like what? I don't need like all that high level stuff in these tomes. And what's the point? If it helps you understand certain aspects of yourself, fine. But I don't think, guys, I do believe we're an aspect of something far greater than here. I don't think the goal is to study hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of these tomes that you have to be able to navigate. David Bowie's Labyrinth, what's it called? No, it was Pan's Labyrinth. It was called, yeah, it was still Labyrinth. David Bowie's Labyrinth with a young Jennifer Connelly and Pan's Labyrinth. What a horrible movie. That creature, I guess it's Pan, but it's in Spanish. He's so annoying. Oh my goodness. Oh, that Pan creature. Maybe it's designed to be that way. But what? So I I have to research this hundreds and hundreds of pages so I know exactly what to do at the moment of my death. If you want to believe that, believe that. Um, Much more basic lessons than it just ignoring the nature of the trick of what it wants you to do. Is a much more basic lesson as to how to live your life in terms of looking at the creeps and not following what they want you to do. Simple lessons. So anyway, guys, when I watch these videos, they're so complicated. But I still say I'm still sitting here like, what's studying this for 10 years going to do for me? Still going to be sitting here. Can you run down the street and do anything different? No. Just decided, you can only live your life a certain way regarding your limited sphere of influence, your reality bubble that's here. Instead of you can try to take the butterfly or have the little spider jump on your finger instead of smashing it. Things like little things. What else is there? No, you need to spend 15 years to research exactly what you need to do at death, every twist and turn, and then only those people are going to get out. Come on, give me a break. You wouldn't have signed up for this if that was the case, in my opinion. Thanks, guys.